Hey class, so this is a brief video answering some of your questions, not about cover letters, but you had other questions in the discussion forum about job seeking and Zoom interviews and things like that, and then also EPAC. So I'm going to take about 7 to 10 minutes and answer those for you. And then if you still have additional questions, shoot me individual emails and I'll help you out with that. So one of you asked, what do I do with that really awkward, weird time in between when I graduated and when I have a full-time job? And that's a great question. I've never been asked that before, but I really do like it. I think it's fantastic and it's good to be thinking ahead, especially during this time. So when you graduate, you may not have a full-time job lined up. I'd say if you're a person who needs to have money coming in, you would want to keep whatever work you've been doing on the side, your part-time job, if you're able to, or find something part-time. So you're at least bringing in money and you're not having huge gaps in your resume. That'd be first things first. Second, if you really want to keep being paid, but you need a little more than part-time, you might consider looking into temporary agencies. They're called temp agencies for short. I think they get a bad rap, but in the kind of economy we're facing and the situation we're facing, I think they could work okay for you all. Temp agencies are essentially the go-between between a company who's looking to hire and a potential employee. And so they do that back-end work of taking in the resumes, screening the first round, and they essentially present to the company that they've contracted with, the top 3 or 4 candidates. People who work with a temp agency is called a recruiter or an account manager, and they actually will help you prepare for the job interview even more. Interview prep, they're going to change your resume a lot because they want it to be very specific to a job, and that's fine. Because remember, we do change our resume for each job. We tailor it, and you would want to take their advice. They'll tell you about the company, about the job, and they'll really get you prepared. The other thing to keep in mind about a temp agency is there's 3 kinds of kind of pathways to work. The first is people who are seeking what we call direct hire. That means the company wants to hire someone permanently right away, but they just don't want to deal with the screening. Okay, and that means when the temp agency brings you to the company, if the company hires you, you work for that company, not the temp agency, and you're their permanent employee. That's the most ideal. Second might be that you would think about just temporary. Okay, temporary means a company needs someone for a certain amount of time. Sometimes it's 12 to 15 weeks, sometimes it's a year or longer. And sometimes that temporary contract can go on, but the position's not going to turn permanent. Okay. And for some of you, you're like, I just need a paycheck. That's fine. Just be aware that the position is temporary so you can keep your eyes peeled for other opportunities as well. And then there's a third, which is most common, which is called temp to hire. This means that the company wants to kind of give you a test run first. And this is most common when you're working with temp agencies. So usually there's a contract between the company and the temp agency that whoever the company decides on. The temp agency will handle the payroll. Usually with temp agencies, you get paid every week. If not, it's every other week. You can get insurance from the temp agency if you want. And after a period that's been already decided, whether it's 12 weeks, 15 weeks, 20 weeks, and you would know that at the start, the company can opt to hire you permanently. And if you're working with a reputable temp agency, then that's what's going to happen if you're the right fit. And if you're not the right fit, it doesn't mean the temp agency will never use you again. It just means you aren't the right fit. There are some temp agencies that kind of get you stuck in that temp new contract, so you never actually get to the temp for hire piece. So you just want to do your research on some of those temp agencies. A couple great ones right off the bat, and I could help you dig into more, would be Robert Half, especially for the business side of things. And then also Apple One is pretty reputable as well. When you look up reviews of those, keep in mind people only post reviews when they're really happy or really upset. Like maybe they didn't get the temp position or they never heard back. The key with a temp position is if you apply through the website, you also need to follow up. I know my husband got the job he has now, and knock on wood, like things seem to be going pretty great. He's been there for 3 or 4 years, and he got it through a temp agency. But the way it worked is he sent his resume, and then he called 2 days later and followed up and said, "I really want to come in and meet with you. Maybe right now you'd be doing a Zoom meeting instead." But he didn't just send it with nothing. We always follow up. And so a temp agency is potential. And then also, because this video is obviously going to go longer than 7 to 10 minutes now, because I've gone on about temp agencies. If you are in between work, whether you decide to work part-time, get a temporary role, find something you don't really love while you're looking for the job you really want, treat finding a job like your full-time job. That doesn't mean 40 hours a week looking for a job, but every day you should be spending a few hours working towards finding work. And that doesn't just mean scouring job pages and putting out resumes and cover letters. That means working on your network, enhancing your network, and reaching out to your network to say, "Hey, remember me? These are my skills, and I saw this posting at your company, and I think I'd be really great for it. Could we talk about it? Or can you direct me to someone who can talk about it with me?" But maximize your network. That's going to be key all the time, but especially in the COVID-19 times. When to search for a job. I mean, you could start searching for a job up to a year before graduation. I think 6 months is that sweet spot. But I feel like sometimes the rules are out the window with COVID. So as soon as you feel ready, that your documents are ready, that you have that basic resume that you're still going to tweak for every job, start looking and start putting it out there. And then let's see, Zoom interviews. So doing Zoom interviews is exactly the same as doing a in-person interview. You need to still dress up as much as possible, right? You don't want to be sitting around in your junkie t-shirt like I am right now. You need to ensure that you have a quiet space. So while it's really charming and sweet that our pets, make these debuts when we're in Zoom meetings, when you're in a Zoom interview, you need to keep your pet somewhere where they're going to be quiet and they're not going to be up in your face. You need a really neutral background. So not the frat house with pictures on the walls. If you have a wall hanging, it's fine, but keep it toned down. Keep in mind they're going to see whatever's behind you. I know one time we did a Zoom interview from somebody in an old job I was in, and her bookshelf was super junky, and a lot of us could not even focus on what she was saying because we were staring at that bookshelf. I'm not saying you got to clean your bookshelf, find a different background. Okay. And then practice. So some of you are not as adept at Zoom yet, and I've heard from several of you, this is my first Zoom meeting. Practice Zoom ahead of time and then log on to Zoom maybe 3 to 4 minutes before the interview. I know we say get to interviews 10 minutes early, but if you get on your Zoom interview 10 minutes early and someone else is there, it's going to be super awkward and weird. So 3 to 4 minutes early. And then EPAC. I did log on. Now this is a faculty member view, so not quite the same, but there's a few features I want to show you. First things first, when you click on jobs, you can do extended job search as well. This is just kind of what's popping up based on past that I have searched for students with, searched with students for jobs. I want you to keep in mind for keywords, be creative. So if you're looking for something very administrative, look up words that have to do with administrative work, filing, typing, bookkeeping. If you're looking for accounting, look up some of those phrases, things that you learned in the class. So be creative with your keywords. And then with extended job search, it takes you out further. I probably wouldn't use that as much, but you could. The key with EPAC is that these employers are posting jobs into EPAC because they're willing to hire NC State students, okay? So my number one tip for jobs is to be creative, and then you can actually dig into a little bit more different types of positions. If you are open to moving, you can put, make wide mileage. If you're not, you need to put no to nationwide and be very specific. But basic job hunting, I think the key here is students do not get very creative. So they're thinking, I want a supply chain job. So they just type in supply chain. Well, think about what are other words for supply chain. And one of them is right here, logistics. Okay. You might also think about warehouse, shipping, receiving. So be creative with your keywords. Number 2 feature over here on the left is events, and there will be workshops, information sessions for different companies. Let's click there. So Credit Suisse has one coming up, and if you click on it, you can see you have to register by August 4th, and you can log into the session. I think they're having a virtual session on August 6th from 4:30 to 5. So anyone interested, it says right here, in asset management with Credit Suisse can register and add to calendar. So always look at the information sessions, even if it's being sponsored by a different company, a different college. You can go to those information sessions. So I think information session is super valuable, and of course career fairs as well. If you are a student who is looking for work on campus this fall, I would definitely go to the Campus Enterprises Fair. We sent this out, I think, late last week. But you can go to any career fair that's listed here. You just click and you can look at the companies that are attending. If it was in person, you would be able to see a map of where they are, so you can plan your route. But I think the list of who's coming is very, very valuable, because you can then go do your company research, which we've talked about in class. And so when you talk to the company, you'll be able to be very specific about what exactly draws you to that organization, which will make you stand out. And you can go ahead and get the dates on your calendar. I would definitely go to the Poole College Career Fair, without a doubt. If you're thinking about something in supply chain, which I think several of you in this class have expressed somewhat of an interest, go to this career fair. Soon CALs will be posted, but use this to get those dates added to your calendar. You can look at various employers, and I'm not going to dig into that, but you can actually get names and contacts of people to reach out to. And then I think what's really unique is under My Account here on the left, you click Personal. Obviously, anything you put into the system, a recruiter is going to see, so you want to be, up to date. But what I think is great is with your major, a lot of students pin themselves into just their major. You need to mark off and add any major that's related to what you do. So that I get job descriptions related to Ag and Life Sciences, Ag Business Management, Business Administration, and then I put all majors. I don't think you should do that, but Business Administration and Ag Business Management are very similar. You all are gaining the same skills. So there's no reason not to put Business Administration as one of the majors you're seeking. And go through all of these majors and really decide, let's look at management. If you got the econ minor, you might want to click off economics and accounting and then done. Now, when you first log in and you go to that jobs page, jobs related to ag business, business administration, economics, and accounting will show. You do not have to be in that major to click that off. Also, the inverse of this happens. If an employer is looking for students to fill jobs, and some employers on EPAC use EPAC this way, you will pop up as a potential candidate for jobs that they have listed under the economics major, for example. And then that's where you want to, where is it? Let me find it. Let's save our changes before we go. You want to save changes. And then under resources, there's a document library. You can actually upload your best generic, basic resume into the system, and they could view your resume as well. So I think EPAC is great because they are actually looking for students who work at NC State, but I did want to draw your attention to the job scam and fraudulent employers. You do need to do your due diligence on EPAC. Every once in a while, someone slips through the cracks with EPAC. So if it seems too good to be true, research it, because it probably is too good to be true. And I will wrap up for now, but if you have specific questions about yourself, about EPAC, about job searching elsewhere, let me know, and I'd be glad to work with you one-on-one.